Hi, Gorish. Thanks so much for making time today. Welcome to the show. So, today we're going to talk about AI and sales intelligence and basically your journey building Cybele. I see you've been working there for over 4 years now. You have an impressive background in AI and engineering at Stanford. So, I'm really excited to dive into our conversation. What is it that inspired you to start Cybele in the first place?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be here. My journey, so my background has been mostly AI and ML research. So I've been doing that for over 10 years. Most recently, before Sybil, I used to be a lecturer at Stanford teaching optimization theory. And
Oh, man.
initially, that was where the idea for Sybil came about. So
Yes.
basically, what happened was during the pandemic, we still had this, we started doing more online lectures. And in
Hmm.
those online lectures, I had a really hard time just understanding what my students are thinking. It's like a wall of 40 or 50 students, and I am sharing my screen. I'm not able to see any emotions, any faces at all.
Yeah.
So it just became a big challenge for me. Our earliest idea was basically, can we build an AI to read body language and facial expressions of my students on a Zoom call? We used to call it like playfully like the mind reader for Zoom. And we
And you
started
can
with
see
that
that
in 2020.
everyone is tired on their fifth Zoom. You just see the
Yeah, so
numbers
it
dropping.
was so fun. Very quickly, as we started, we were like approached by a lot of different industries. We were like, can you do this for my content, or can you do this for my domain or lecture, and even
Mhm.
speeches in cases. But one thing that really attracted us was like the sales use case. It's so close to company building and revenue. If you can get someone be more effective at selling, that was like such a powerful use case. So we decided to go down that route. And over the next 1.5, 2 years, like me and my co-founders don't come from a traditional sales background. We
No,
were
yeah.
learning sales on the side. So
Yes.
we did 400 user interviews in 365 days, like every single day, just going through learning what is enterprise sales. And what we realized towards the end of it is the non-verbal cues and capturing those facial expressions and body language is critical, but sales rep already have some skills and talents to do that. That's why they are in sales. There is another part that we uncovered, which was like this all of this passive selling tasks that these reps are doing on a daily basis, which is taking up almost like 75, 80% of their time.
Are you talking
And people
about
are like,
like their off-call SOP, like the work a salesperson does
exactly,
when they're not in a demo, when they're not in a sales call? Yeah.
exactly.
And
Like
they all hate it. They all
the
hate doing
hate
that.
it's
Yeah.
like visceral hate. I don't
Yes.
want to,
Yes.
like, don't make me make 50 decks a quarter and it's the same thing just repeated over and over again. So we thought that's a really critical pain point, and that's what we decided to solve for. And today what we basically help is like your active selling time, which for a typical sales rep is like 2 hours, we help increase that to 6 hours. So you're on calls with customers for that period of time and making sure we're doing the selling as opposed to doing all of the other manual work, which essentially a non-skilled worker could take up or else.
Yeah. I can see that the business case is extremely easy to make. If you, it's like tripling your sales staff just
Yep.
because and I love this thing about sales. A lot of sales professionals, they focus on closing. Everyone in sales
Mm.
really wants to close.
Yeah.
But if you get more people to show up in calls, it's the same effect. It's the same percentages. So if you can double your
Yep.
show rate or you can double your preparation or so it makes a lot of sense. So how have you been acquiring your first customers and driving growth?
The best channel that has worked for us has been word of mouth and
Hmm.
referrals. I think we like when we launched this new product out, we were like, we spent 6 months trying to figure out how to get the customers, like LinkedIn
Yeah.
outreach, everything. I think we had 50K of sales in 6 months. And then the first month when we hit product market fit, like people actually loved this new shiny object. And that time it was simply a call note taking tool, which is now pretty common. But
Yeah.
like in the first month, we got 100% more revenue than what we had gotten for the last 6 months.
That's
Like
6 months.
basically, we
Yeah.
went from
It's a good
50K
sign.
to 100K in a month, and we were like, this is it. And our customers were raving about us. Like, this was like, we had customers, many cases, we had scenarios where they would actually go to their parents or their spouses and talk about Sabel. Colleagues is like very common, but
Yeah.
we had scenarios where like family discussion became
Yeah.
Sybil,
If
and
you're telling your partner about software, that's a good
yeah,
sign.
that's a great,
Yeah.
was like phenomenal. And we had, so that became our biggest channel of growth. And even today, that funnels almost 50 to 55% of our leads
Or
in
word of
is
mouth.
via word of mouth.
Got it. Okay. And I noticed you're emphasizing self-serve growth. Can you share a little bit more about that strategy?
Yeah. So sales market is very crowded, right? It's a lot of players and they're all trying to go after dollars and budget, all of these sales tech software. And if you want to get dollars, the persona you need to target is the CRO or the VP of sales. Like they are the ones who have the purse strings or the budget. And neither your ops guys, neither enablement, and definitely not the sales rep have the ability to move dollars or allocate dollars to a company. What we saw was everyone is on that other side of like, hey, we need to target the CRO and we need to do outreach. And
Yeah.
that's a strategy,
Yeah.
but it's
Crowded.
better to be unique than be the best. So what we decided was the sales rep is anyways our top key champion. And these guys are anyways under a lot of pressure to get their quota, to get those deals closed, especially like as you get towards end of their cycle, like a quarter or a period, month, it becomes pretty intense for them. So what we decided is we will go after the sales rep, make sure they are able to get the value from the product. And for that to happen, you need to make the product very easy to use and very easy to sell. So because sales rep have so many of tools that their internal
Yeah.
teams already have. So it's not easy to get. You can understand, right? Like you get
Yeah.
bombarded with 15, 20 tools, and if you have another one that's coming
I
in
try
that's
them all,
hard to
but I'm
implement,
I'm
it's
weird.
like sales is it becomes a lot of mental overload. So we wanted to
Yes.
take that away. And so one
Yeah.
of the easiest way to do is push us to keep thinking about what would be an easy way for customers to use Sybil. And self-serve is like that. It forces you into that thinking mode, as opposed to if I have to have a CSM to implement a tool,
Yeah.
then I can cut corners in how the onboarding is.
Got it. So it's really like product-led growth sort of strategy. You're trying to make onboarding easy and you're going with word of mouth. And it also sounds like it's a little bit of a bottom-up sales
It's a
motion. You're
very
not
bottom
going
up.
for
Yeah,
the CRO or the CCO
yeah,
or whoever. You want the reps to ask for it or
yeah.
expense it or
It's
whatever
so
they.
it's always been so for us, and this has its own challenges.
Ah,
It's not a
there's no free
foolproof strategy,
lunch.
100%. But the good part is, in many cases, what we have heard is we have had scenarios where we once a few people from the team adopt it, we go to the VP of sales. The VP of sales is like the sales rep literally forced my hand to buy this tool, the
Yeah.
team, and that's a really powerful feeling. Once you hear that from the VP of sales, I'm getting forced to buy this tool. That's a good feeling to have.
So, other than word of mouth, how are you reaching out to business development folks, people who are on the ground
Yeah.
floor as who would be using the tool? How are you getting in front of them if it's not through word of mouth?
Other than word of mouth, the second biggest channel for us is LinkedIn. We do a
Yeah.
lot of LinkedIn posting, branding, marketing. We have other folks in our network that are typically posting on behalf of Sybil, sharing features. And that has been a very good channel because salespeople are all, that's one space where they use
Yeah.
daily, like multiple times a
They're
day.
already there.
So,
It's
yeah,
trying to
so
find people and
all we need to do is, and this was like, we had scenarios where you would get sometimes, and this is, LinkedIn is very interesting because as a platform, it's, lucky about uh, you get lucky about what post blows up and what doesn't. In some
hmm
cases, there's some
hmm
science behind it, but there's also how LinkedIn algorithm works and what it
yeah,
picks up and what it
some
doesn't.
randomness.
So, yeah. So we had scenarios where if the post does get picked up, it completely blows up our sign up numbers like many times. Could happen. You get 10x the signups than your average in the weeks or days preceding the post getting picked up by the algorithms.
Yeah, makes sense.
Another avenue we are exploring is communities, which is a very new avenue for us. We have this platform called Humans of Sales. What it is, if you've heard of Humans of Bombay or Humans of New York, it's like
Yeah,
from,
humans. That book
yeah.
is at my sister-in-law's house, I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Basically, the idea is it's all connected back to the sales reps, the sellers. So
hmm
if you have these sellers who are going through hard times, who have seen such unique journeys, can
hmm
we bring out the best of the stories from those sellers and share it with the
Hmm.
broader network so that they can learn and they can feel and they can like they get empowered because of these stories. And these are like raw emotion, very absolute truth stories that we want to
Yeah.
share with other people. And not just wins, but also losses, struggles,
Yeah.
challenges that they went through the
I
journey.
love that. That's going to be extremely engaging to make something
Yeah,
like that just for sales folks because
that's
why? Because I think it shows a lot of empathy. It's like really what they're going through and that you actually care. And I don't think the general population is making this stuff for salespeople. I don't think they're like,
yeah.
sales guys. They don't have that same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a very dirty connotation in many cases. If
Yeah.
I talk to developers in my industry, sales, that's an easy job. Anyone can do it. Like they don't understand the pain, the struggle, the number of rejections that a
Yeah.
single
Not
salesperson has
everyone
to
can
go
do it.
with.
Let me tell you.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And we want to showcase those stories. We want to tell people. And these are the people that on which, like a company's revenue or growth is modeled. So
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about that.
I love that idea. How are you finding people to get these stories?
We are starting out with people in my network, people that I know either personally or via LinkedIn, and then asking them to share their journeys with me, like understanding what have they gone through. Most salespeople, it's so fun. Like I have a salesperson in my team. He went from being a gym trainer to being an STR at the age of 30,
Yeah.
and she has been training in gyms for almost 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And then she was like, I want to try out this field. I love talking to people. I love talking to customers. I love building relationships. And I want to try out SDR.
It's very
And then
similar,
went on to become
actually,
a rep. It's
because
so unique.
the consistency is
It's-
definitely a part of it.
Yeah,
There's a huge
yeah.
overlap. I love it. That's great. And how do you like internally, how do you have like a customer happiness index or like how are you measuring the success of your customers to see that people are getting a benefit out of it?
A few different ways. That's actually very important for us because again, if we don't, so our customers are the ones which are driving the product out. So our NPS is actually 70, which is for a B2B product, it's bonkers. And that is the biggest indication. And then the second thing we keep track of is, are we actually helping you close more revenue, or is it simply a productivity software? So what we see is people are coming back and saying, previous like last year when we were not using Sybil versus now, the only thing that has changed is that the software, I have the software now, and
Hmm.
they're actually feeling that their revenue and their year and quotas are much, much more satisfied. So I think those two metrics, one is a qualitative metric, one is a very quantitative. Can people live without the software?
Yeah.
Uh, we run the Sean Ellis test once, and it's 7 out of 10 people are saying they
Sean
would like
Ellis is like, what would you do if you could no longer use this anymore?
if you
Yeah.
could no longer use the product. And 7 out of 10 said they would be extremely disappointed, and that was like a great signal.
Great. Cool. Okay. And then when you look at the vision for the future and the headwinds you might face, like where do you see AI in sales intelligence heading?
It's such a deep topic. There is so
Yeah.
much to unpack here. I met CROs, a lot of CROs in my job, and there's this whole domain about prospecting, and everyone is wondering if AI SDRs are going to replace humans or are they going to augment humans?
Yeah.
And there's a whole debate in the industry going on where people have picked sides on what is going to happen to these
Yeah.
entry-level SDR jobs. My personal take on it is there are some roles which AI would completely make redundant. SDR, I do feel, is one of those. Or rather, in being more specific, like the job which the human SDR does needs to be taken up by the AI with augmentation from an AI agentic system. The SGR component itself needs to go away, or we need to find more unique ways of more in-person connecting because online outreach is very much dead. Like the single biggest pain which I've heard with CROs is like the rise of this led to the decline of how outreach is working as a channel, and that
Yeah, it's
actually has been very
interesting
good.
as a marketer, you see this happening and that now anyone can just amplify output, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
They just and I just wonder, okay, what are we going to do when it's just more and more? Are we all going to revert to I show up at your house with flowers? Like how do is it going to
More of
go
that is
all
starting now.
sales?
I got a Zen garden recently in
Yeah.
a gift Zen garden, and I don't know who gave it to me. It came in a
Yeah.
box and it's no label there. I'm sure there must be an email that came on, but I have a Zen garden now, which I don't know
You're
what to
like,
do with it.
who gave this to me? Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Uh,
See that if some roles are augmented, some are redundant. I'm going to avoid
yeah.
asking political AI questions. There's so many.
Uh-huh.
So what do you see the challenges that you're facing scaling up Cybele this
I
year?
think the biggest one for us is buyers and prospects today have started filtering out all kinds of information and noise together. And they're like tuning out completely. Every company is now an AI company, and
Yep.
every company is trying to do everything under the sun. And they're trying to claim that they have nailed everything under the sun. So buyers are like, whom do I even trust? Whom do I look at? Where is what tools, what processes? What I hear is a lot of confusion in the market. So the biggest challenge for us and for a lot of companies in this field of AI, especially within GTM tech, is like, how do you cut through the noise in order to get to the buyer? It's not even if they try, like, just to get them on the table for discussing whether it's a good fit or not. That I think is the hardest part.
Yes. Yes. And it takes creativity. I think it
Yeah.
is getting harder, and it's harder just to say, "Hey, do you have this pain? Would you like me to
Yeah.
solve it in exchange for money?" That's coming everywhere. So you're starting to need to be very creative to get some
First
of these
party
folks.
branding is like more and more I see first party branding going nowhere and are almost like it's becoming redundant because every company is trying to claim everything under the sun.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I have a very strong belief that first party branding, like companies tooting their own horse, the only thing they're doing is people that get interested in you, they're able to get you hooked and reeled in.
Yeah.
But earlier, the first party branding was also a means for people to shine out and get the prospects in the door. Right now, I think the only way, at least the major way that gets people in the door is when you have other folks other than myself talking about my platform. Only then a third person will go, okay, John and Sean is talking about this tool. Let me look at it because there might be something here. If
Yeah.
Sybil as a company is like, hey, I am great, 10 other
Yeah.
companies are saying the exact same thing. So,
Yeah.
like,
Definitely. Yeah. And that reminds me of a copywriting thing that you can't beat proof in marketing. That's the strongest thing you could do. You could shout louder claims, but nothing beats proof. This has been really fascinating, Goresh. And before we wrap up, can you tell me, like, what is the thing you're the most excited about in the future coming up?
for us, it's like how fast the technology is developing and what it can do for the future of sales. I think sales reps still are at a point where there's a lot of magic that happens in getting to solve someone's problem, like a
Hmm.
seller, right? If I'm able to get a customer and solve their problem and get to the other end, like where they feel happy and they're like, okay, I have found something new. I think AI can truly unlock more of that happening via individuals. So I really believe in sellers becoming super fans in their own regards for
Yeah.
every their
Great.
jobs.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John.